Hi everyone, I'm Lori Whitlock. Welcome to class today. We are live from Silhouette headquarters in Linden, Utah, and we are going to be putting together this gorgeous 3D chipboard Christmas village. So hopefully all of you have had a chance to go download the files at the Silhouette Design Store. And if you haven't done that yet, I can show you real quick in the software where to go and get these files. They're available in a bundle and they're available individually. So if you want to make one or if you want to make the whole village, you're welcome to do that. But today, just so you're aware, we're going to be starting out with the little cottage at the beginning. I'm going to show you how to cut the pieces for this little one. It's probably the most simple of all of the house pieces. We'll get those cut out, and then I'm going to show you how to assemble it from beginning to end. And then we're also going to move on to the church or the school, which is here, and then we'll also be doing the manor, which is here on the end. So if you want to get those files downloaded for sure, those are the three pieces we'll be going over this week. And next week we'll have a class at this exact same time here on the same Zoom and YouTube channel where you can join us for the second part in this series, and we'll be putting together the last two house pieces, which is this one here, which is the general store, and we'll be doing the farmhouse as well. So you'll need, in order to take this class, you'll need some Silhouette chipboard, and I just wanted to show you what that looks like here. If you don't already have this, you can go and not download it, you can go and order it right now at the Silhouette. Let's see if I can get the glare off of that. At the Silhouette store online, or you can go grab it on Amazon or your local store. You can pick up this. But it's a pack of 25, and it's a lightweight chipboard that cuts beautifully on your Silhouette machine. So I'll go over the rest of the supplies that you'll need, but those are the basics. You're going to need the file. So let me show you real quick where to find that in the design store. Let me share my desktop with you here. Okay, so in the Silhouette store, if you're at the first page here, if you click on this bundles up at the top, you can see right here on the top row, there's the Lori Whitlock Christmas Village Design Bundle. You can download the entire bundle for the next 52 days, and you get a discount. Regular price would be $30.94. I've already downloaded it, so it's saying 0, but on your machine it'll probably say $25.99, and you basically get one piece free if you download the entire bundle. But if you don't want the whole bundle, you can just go to Artists, click on Lori Whitlock, which if you don't have me up here as the artists you follow, you'll have to go down in the lower part, but you may as well click on that and put me up there as one of your favorite artists so you can get right to those designs. But you can download each of those individually here. And you'll also want to grab this embellishment sheet, which is a print and cut sheet, and we'll be covering next week how to put together that print and cut embellishment sheet. So today, again, you'll want this cottage, and you'll want the church and the manor. And obviously in class, you probably won't have time to cut everything out, but that's okay. You'll be able to watch this YouTube video on the Silhouette YouTube channel, and once we have it all recorded, you'll be able to find the instructions right here with the file, and you'll be able to watch them right within Silhouette Design Store with each individual house file. So you'll have the chance to back up and rewatch anything you need to rewatch to get these cut out and to get these put together. So I am going to go through the steps to put each of them together so that you have all of the instructions you need for each and every individual house. So once you've put one together, it will be easier to put the others together, but I do want to go through each of those steps so you have that information. But so first of all, get those files downloaded. Once you have those downloaded, we'll be ready to start class. Have we got most people gathered up? McKenna? Okay, cool. So I've got some moderators here in the class. We've got McKenna, we've got Kelly. McKenna, what does your name show up as? Silhouette? Silhouette Help. So watch for those. If you have some questions, they'll be fielding some of those. They'll also be asking me some questions so I can answer them here on air. And so feel free to ask those. I will pause in between each section. I'm going to talk about the houses and the materials, and then I'll pause and ask for some questions, and then we'll go into the software and set up for cutting, and then I'll ask some for questions then, and then we'll go through assembly, and then we'll have questions. So there will be some times that I pause for questions. Let's see, like I mentioned, this will be recorded so you can watch it later on YouTube. Oh, one other thing, if you've already downloaded the files, you might want to go and download the newest files, because I did make a couple of edits. There was one house that had a door that's cut all the way off instead of just scoring, and I did replace that file. So if you've downloaded them, go ahead and re-download so you get the newest. You don't have to buy them again. That'll be free if you've already paid for them. Let's see. I wanted to talk just for a minute about Christmas villages in general and houses. I've designed lots and lots of house files for the Silhouette Design Store over the years. Behind me, you'll see a few of them. Let's see, over here in the corner, we've got some miniature little houses. It's part of a series I did for this year. And all of these are cut out of just cardstock. So they're not nearly as sturdy. They're really cute. They're smaller, so it's okay that they're out of cardstock. They make really cute tiered tray items. They're a lot smaller than the ones we're working on today. I've also got a cute little set of Halloween pieces that I've just recently put in the design store. They've been really popular this season. So cute. But again, these are all cut out of cardstock, and they're a lot more fragile to store. So that was kind of what my inspiration was for the chipboard village that we're going to be creating today, is I wanted something that was a little bit more durable that you could store. And then as I was designing it, I'm like, why don't we make it where we can display it year round? So the embellishments that I've created can be put out for Christmas, but then I'll have a new set of embellishments that you can download and print out for Valentine's and for spring and Easter and summer. So this will be a really fun village. You'll be able to display it all year long. I've also got a cute gingerbread back here. I do have a little series if you're interested in taking more classes, of a store flat village that I have that you can, the little top is just magneted on, so you can take it apart and store it flat in a box that we make in class. And that is over on my little cutting classes website, where I teach some silhouette classes over there as well. So if you're interested in that, go visit cuttingclasses.com. This is another little piece from that series as well, right next to the church. I guess I can bring that up so you can see that as well. So there you go. This is another piece to that store flat. And again, this will come apart in store flat. So we've also got back here another sample of our chipboard village done with pattern paper. So the pieces I'm going to show you today, I've spray painted them all white and given them a gray charcoal colored roof. And on this sample, I've actually covered this in pattern paper. So this is another great way to customize your village and just make it a little more decorative if you want to make it specific to Christmas. You could make the whole village this way, or you could just do a piece for a cute table decor centerpiece or something like that. And I will show you exactly when and how to put that cardstock on the outside layer. But these are really heavy duty, nice, thick pieces. If you paint them like the white set that we're going to be putting together today, or if you cover them in pattern paper, you've got some options. And then also we've put on just a wreath that we got at the craft store to decorate this house with, instead of using the print and cut embellishment. So there's just so many different options that you have as you're making this cute village. So I really hope that you guys have fun customizing your village and designing it the way you want. I've also got a couple more cute samples back here, just showing you different ways that you can decorate your village houses. These ones are both covered in pattern paper, and the little wreaths on them are from some other files that I have in the design store. So you can use other things that you already have. You don't have to embellish them exactly the way I've done that. You may have some files that you want to use. You'll notice in these samples, you'll see that there's shutters on the windows. And on my samples, I've used the window casings, and I've given you options for both in the file, so you can design yours the way you want. So let's get started. let's walk through the village that I have here in front of me. Today we're going to be putting together this little cottage first. And if you'll notice on the front door, there is a cute little wreath, and I have put that on with a magnet. So if you'll notice, there's a magnet on the back of the wreath and on the back of the little house, or on the door of the little house. So they just stick together, and that's one of those pieces that will be on the print and cut sheet that you'll be able to modify or change out each season. So for instance, on Valentine's, I'll probably make a set with some hearts to put on the doors or something like that. And so you can kind of customize. If you'll notice on the little general store, there's also a large wreath up here in this area. Again, that is print and cut, and that's put on there with a magnet. So much fun. Once you take those little magnet Christmas embellishments off your little house, if you do it the way I've done it, is generic enough that you can put different embellishments on for each season. So that's one reason why I chose to paint mine white and put those dark colored roofs on. Now you could use different colors for the roof. It'd be darling in a light gray or complete black, but I used a charcoal color. Let's walk through some of those supplies that you're going to need. Yes.
Somebody asked, what lights do you use?
Okay, we're going to go through that right now. That's a perfect question. So inside these houses, I've got a set of lights that I got at Target that actually the little light box fits right inside the hole. So on the bottom of the houses, there's a hole, and this little control box, it's got a timer on it. Once you start this, it's going to stay on for 8 hours, and then it's going to turn off for 18 hours. Let's see, is that right? Or 6 hours on and 18 hours off, I think. And then it'll come on every day at the same time that way throughout the holidays. And this one's awesome because, like I said, that box will fit inside. I also ran to Sam's Club. So hold on, this set came from Target. So let me just show you that. This set is the set with the small box that's inside this house. And this is what the packaging looks like on that. You can also get these on Amazon, and I put some links on my blog if you want to go find the blog post about that. So you can find those on Amazon with the small boxes. And I ran to Sam's Club and I bought another set. And the box on the set there, which was a great price because you got like 4 of them for $12 or something, but the box is a lot bigger and it is too big to go inside that hole. So if you did choose to do this, you might need to hand cut your hole a little bit wider or something to fit that inside, or you could just store it on the back of the house. So that's totally up to you what you want to do, but they're called fairy lights, and on this packaging it doesn't say fairy lights, but if you Google fairy lights, that's what this type of lighting is called. They're just a thin wire with little LED lights all along the wire. So,
Lori, is the hole already set in the bottom of the house in the file?
Yep. Okay. Yep. Every house has a hole in the bottom of the house so that you can put fairy lights in there. Or another way that you can do it if you don't want to buy fairy lights is the tea lights. And I've cut that hole just the right size to fit a tea light inside of those, but it will give you a lot less light. So it's really not going to provide quite as much light throughout that house. The houses are a little big for that, but if that's what you want to do, it will fit and it will work. So, and make sure you use electric lights. Do not try and put a candle or a real flame because they'll go up in flames. So, of course, we all know that. Okay.
We have a couple more questions.
Okay.
They're about embellishments. So do you want to go through those first, or?
Okay, so the embellishments, let me just show you how they're done. We're not going to go through how to create them today, but they have a little easel on the back that I've designed. It's a miniature little tiny easel. You can kind of see how that works. It just folds up and it'll fold flat on the back. So if you want to put these in an envelope and store them till next year, you can do that easily. But then I'll open that up and pop that easel. It's a little bit tricky. Anyways, you just pop that up and put the little piece straight down to hold that in place, and then they'll stand up.
And are we going over those in next week's
We
class?
are.
Okay.
So next Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we're going to go through that. I'll show you what the sheet looks like. We've actually, and you might want to get some of this for next week. It's this, the ones I've created were just printed on a nice printer, inkjet printer paper, and then I glued them onto chipboard. This is a silhouette product, and I've got the packaging for it right here. This is a glitter sticker sheet, so you might be interested in picking that up this week if you want yours to have a little iridescent glitter shimmer to it. And this is what it looks like all printed out with these embellishments on it. Super pretty, but mine that I printed on just plain cardstock looks like this. So this is actually printed on a nice inkjet cardstock, so not just plain. You could also get the plain sticker paper from Silhouette to print on, because we do mount that on a chipboard that I painted white. And like I said, we will go through that next week, but you might want to collect some supplies if you want to go through that with me. So the little bottle brush trees are really fun to add in with the village, and you can pick those up at craft stores. Target has some, Amazon has some. I bought some at Oriental Trading. Those are places, and they just look really cute tucked in to add a little more character to your house scene. So we've gone through the lights, the chipboard, the cardstock, the trees. Any other questions before I move on? Magnets, hold on one second. If you want to pick up some magnet for next week, I just bought a roll of magnet sticker stuff.
That was actually what the question was.
Okay.
What kind of magnet?
So it's just a roll, and I just cut off a little piece and mounted it on the house, and then I mounted a piece on the back of the embellishment. So you can get that at a craft store. You might want a bone folder. You might want a charcoal paint. This is a Cermacoat. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it's called charcoal. That's the color that I used on the roof. And then let's talk a little bit about spray paint, because I spray painted my houses white. And I bought a couple of different spray paints, and I had better luck with one than the other. So I'm going to show you whatever spray paint you buy, just make sure you test it. I had better luck with this one. And here is what it looks like when I tested it. It just sprayed a nice even coat. And when I tested this one, and I don't know if I was doing something wrong, but it just ran. So it'd be terrible to make your houses and have them run. So just be careful. Make sure you grab a good spray paint and that you test it out before you spray all of your houses. Test it on just some this is just corrugated box material. So that's spray paint. You'll need like a little foam brush to paint the roofs with. So when you go to use your paint for the roofs, you'll want a little foam brush. And if you would like to see another paint color, I used this rain gray on this sample here, and I painted, instead of spray painting the house, I actually painted the house rain gray. So if you wanted to do something different like that. And then I added just a little wreath that I got in the miniature section at the craft store. So, and this one actually, I should show you the roof, I'm sorry. The roof on this one is actually cut out of a glitter cardstock, and it's a Doodlebug product that you can purchase at the craft store or online, but it's just a glitter cardstock. And then you can cut those covering panels for the roof out of glitter. So you have lots of options for your village. You can customize it however you want. You can use pattern paper, you can use paint, you can use spray paint, acrylic paint, and decorate it and create embellishments that fit your design style for your house. So, do we have any more questions that I can answer about materials, about supplies that you're going to need? We're good? Okay. All right, again, you can always rewind and go back and look at the products that I talked about if you want to. So at this point, we're going to go into the software, and I'm going to show you, for those of you who weren't here at the very beginning of class, I'm going to show you really quick where the files are again, so you can go pick those up. Okay, so inside the Silhouette store, if you go to Artist, and you go to Lori Whitlock, You're going to see lots of cute Christmas files coming in over the next few weeks, tags and cards and that type of thing. But the houses are pretty close to the top here, and you can buy them individually here. And this is the embellishments sheet for Christmas. And in their bundles, you can find them here, and you can buy them all at once at a discount. So for those of you who weren't here right at the beginning of class, I did cover that, but you can find them all there. So now let's go over to Silhouette Studio. And in my library, I've already downloaded these houses, and I've made a folder over here called Chipboard Houses. And to do that, you would just right click, make a folder, and then you can go to all your files and then just drag those into that Chipboard House folder, and that will put them all in one little place for you so you can see your whole project that you're going to work on in one place. So that's very handy. So go ahead and double click on that cottage, and this is what the file looks like, all flat, lots of pieces. I've tried to label each of them so that you know what the pieces are for, and you can just see there's the chimney coverings and the chimney piece, the roof, the main house pieces, the front door, and then all of these colored pieces and the white pieces down here at the bottom are the covering panels. So I cut absolutely everything in the file out of chipboard, and I'm going to zoom out a little so you can see it all at once. So I cut everything out of chipboard, assembled my houses, and painted them white. But this is where you get to make some decisions. If you want to cut it all out of chipboard and then cut all the covering panels again out of a pattern paper, that's how you would make that general store I showed you earlier with the plaid walls and the little red front dormer pieces. So you can cut these out of chipboard and out of pattern paper if you'd like. I did not do that for my sample. I just cut everything out of chipboard and put it together and spray painted it white. So let's go ahead, and once you're in the file, you'll want to just move everything off to the side and then ungroup those pieces. So select it and then click the little ungroup button, or you can right click and ungroup, either one. And then all of those little labels, I'm just going to go ahead and delete those out of the file by pressing delete, because we don't want to cut any of those. Those are just for our reference. So let's just do a little setup of cutting. I need to set up my cutting mat to be a Cameo 12 by 12. I was cutting vinyl earlier, so I had no mat selected. So make sure you have that. Make sure you have your machine selected. Make sure you have your media size. And if you've purchased the Silhouette chipboard, it's 12 by 12. If you're using a portrait, you could certainly use the files, because none of these pieces are very big. If you look closely, that's 6.5 by 8 inches. That'll fit on a portrait, no problem. But you would need to trim your chipboard down to 8 inches wide and put that on your portrait mat, and then just set up your mat to that size and make sure everything fits on it so that you cut on the right machine. But let's just go ahead. So you're going to need to just fit all the pieces on. You can see that I can't fit the whole front on one mat, so I'm just going to load it up with some other pieces. And I don't know, let's just rotate pieces. You'll just have to get creative, but it usually takes 3 sheets or so of cardstock, or 4, to get everything cut out. So let's see, that piece will fit on here. Let's go ahead and move that on. And let me just say, before you cut everything out, I would definitely recommend doing a test cut. So I'm just going to take one little piece right here and copy it and make a new document and paste it and just set it up in the corner. And I've already done a couple test cuts, so I'm going to move it over a little bit, but I'll show you how to do a test cut. So one thing you'll need to realize when you're cutting chipboard, it's just a little trickier because it's a thicker material. So I'm just going to go ahead and click chipboard, and the automatic settings for that is 4 on your blade depth, 33 on your force, and 1 on your speed. So you can do a test cut on your machine at those settings, but I will tell you one thing that I do, because I can't handle cutting everything out on a level 1. I always bump up my speed a little. So you guys play around with your machine and what you're comfortable with cutting, but I always bump my speed up a little bit. It works fine. I also like to turn off this overcut on my chipboard cuts. I've played around with it both ways. It works both ways, but I feel like it's a little bit better with that turned off. But again, you play around with it and decide what you want to cut at. But maybe start here with those factory settings and go ahead and let's load some chipboard into our mat, or load our mat into our machine. My machine has the roller set over for vinyl, so I'm going to scoot it back out here to the 12-inch. And hopefully that's the right spot. Yep, that's the right spot. So let's go ahead and load that chipboard in the machine. And I'm going to go ahead and press send. So it's going to go set my blade depth to a 4 and a force at 33 and my speed's at 14. Okay. I've got a little piece of chipboard that came loose from my previous cut. Hopefully that doesn't get too far in our way there. Okay, so that cut everything out twice. And you can see that I probably should have cut that off before I started, but that's okay. Didn't do anything. So we'll just test that out, see how our settings are working. And that's what it looks like. So you can go through and just clean out those windows. You could play with your settings a little bit more just so you can get an even better fallout on those windows.
Lori, we have a question. Somebody said, what does it mean when you say you turn off the overcut function? Like, okay. What is that?
So when you overcut, let me stop sharing my screen. So when you overcut something, the blade is going to, let's see if I can get over here by this chalkboard. It's going to cut, and it's going to pull up the blade, and then it's going to cut, pull up the blade, and cut, and pull up the blade. So if you don't put that on, it's just going to cut the whole square all at once. Does that make sense? So it's going to try and overcut just a little bit at each corner, and then lift the blade up and turn the corner. So it's trying to go past and overcut just a little bit at each corner. And you might find that you need to use that, but you can also turn that off. Sometimes I think just going around the whole square is a cleaner cut for me. So test that out and play with it, see what you like better. Okay, let's go back into my screen share. And we'll go back to the design window, and we'll go back to our house cutting pieces. And let's, I'm gonna cut this. No. I'm just gonna cut a few pieces. We're not gonna cut everything out, but you'd fill up your page and get ready to cut. Just make sure that you don't, I'm gonna rotate this piece. I don't wanna get too close to the edge. So I'm just gonna cut that many pieces for now so that you guys get the idea. Go to our send panel. And I'm just gonna take my my chipboard that I just cut. So let's make sure we get it off of this final setting, get it onto chipboard. Let me just show you really quick what the thick chipboard settings look like right here. So if you, I think that's a brand new setting with this newest software update. So I'm not sure exactly what the settings are for that. But a regular blade depth on a new blade is 4 is a great. My old blade at home, I've been actually bumping this up to a 6. So you guys, just don't be afraid to play around with the settings a little bit. I'm just gonna leave this on the regular settings at 4:33, and I'm just gonna take the speed up a little bit because we don't wanna wait hours. And I'm gonna turn that overcut off, and then we're gonna send it.
Lori, once you send it, can you just slowly repeat the settings that you used to?
You bet. Okay, so we've got our chipboard loaded, and I'm just gonna go ahead and click send. Okay, so the settings I used, so blade depth 4, force 33, 2 passes, speed 13, and the overcut turned off. Okay, and you can see the machine is cutting all those pieces out right now for us. It's really quite easy to get all, I mean, it takes a little time to get your pieces cut out, but it's pretty easy. So once we get this cut out, I'll demonstrate putting together one of the houses, and then we'll move on to a couple more. Do we have any other questions while this is cutting?
Some people have wondered about what blade you're using, so maybe for future reference, if you could just talk about what blade you're using.
Okay, so we're using a Cameo 4 today, and we're using the auto blade that comes with the Cameo 4. But if you have a Cameo 3 or a Portrait, you would just use the blade that comes with that. Or you can always use a ratchet blade. You can use any of the Silhouette blades. Just make sure you set the blade depth. On the machine, you'll notice on the side there's this little blade, ratchet. You can change any of those ratchet blades with that just by turning it. So but it will not automatically change your blade depth for you. So you have to look in the software. If it tells you a blade depth of 4, you'd need to put it on a 4 before installing it in the machine. And so any blade's gonna work. You don't want to use the craft blade. You don't need to use the craft blade, not with this Silhouette chipboard. So if that helps clarify that.
All right, Lori, we have some more questions. Someone asked, do you think you could use cereal box cardboard?
Yes, you can. Just play around with it. So you could use cereal box. I know that some boxes are lighter weight than others, so just play around with different cereal box.
All right, and then we've put this in the chat a few times, but how many packages of chipboard do you need for the whole set of houses?
Okay, to do the whole set of houses, you're going to need 1 full set of chipboard. So you might have a couple sheets left over when you're done, but it takes about 4 sheets of chipboard average per house. So you should have a few left over when you're done. Okay, so our cut is done over here.
All right, we do have one more question.
Sure.
Somebody said, any reason why you couldn't use balsa wood or thick chipboard for more durability? But these are pretty durable, I wanted to point out. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute. If you take a look at one of these houses, they are basically as sturdy as like a paperboard house that you buy at the craft store. So I really don't know if you would want to try cutting on heavier material, because this chipboard is making a really nice sturdy project. So I suppose you could, but I don't know that the thickness of balsa wood, you're not going to be able to turn the glue tabs and glue them. So I probably wouldn't try it out of anything heavier than the chipboard. Okay, so go to your machine, and before you unload your project, because you don't want to waste chipboard, you want to just test everything and make sure it's cutting out. And it is, it looks great. So I'm going to go ahead and unload it. If it doesn't cut perfectly, you can go back to the software and send it again, as long as you don't unload it. Once you unload it, it's almost impossible to reline it all back up. So if it looks good, go ahead and take that, and it just comes right off. And then you'll just have to clean out those little windows. And you might need to use like a little hook. You can use a fingernail, whatever you need. And if you have any tears from, peeling that off, you want that to happen on the back side. And it's really it's not gonna, especially on your covering panels, this one is gonna be covered with chipboard. So you just clean all that out, and then you can see you've got all your score lines here. And in the bottom of the house, let's see, you'll see that there's a curve here, and this is where that candle is going to go in, or that hole in the bottom. So this is basically what the house is going to look like when you cut it out. And then you've got other pieces. This is a chimney piece here, and we're going to go through the assembly of all of this, but it looks like everything cut perfectly. So I'll go ahead and move this off to the side, and we'll get out our pieces for our cottage. So let's just get rid of the computer, because we're done cutting for now. Does anybody have questions about getting it cut out? Okay, so once you've got all the pieces for the cottage cut out, this is what you're going to have. You're going to have the front door area, and these are the 2 main house pieces here. And then you've got the bottom, and I've cut it out twice. And that is not notated in the file, I don't think, but I cut out 2. So on this sample, I only cut the bottom once, I believe. And so, I don't know, I just decided, actually this one is twice. Some of these I've cut out once, and I didn't think it turned out quite as sturdy as I wanted. So cut 2 bottoms. Okay, so that's what the 2 bottoms look like. This is the roof piece. This is our little front dormer piece here, the front door. Let's see if I can get that angled. You can see, there you go. Okay, so the front door piece looks like this when it's flat. And then this is our little roof for our front door piece. Put it over here. Here's a chimney. And I have all the covering panels cut out of chipboard. So let's just move through these one at a time so it doesn't get too overwhelming. But I'm going to set all these covering panels off to the side here. And then we'll just move to, you can see there's quite a few pieces when you get this cut out. We'll just go ahead and put the covering panels on the main house piece at first here. I'm just going to pull those main pieces out. Got those pieces, and we've got this piece, and then just a big rectangle. Let's see, that one's too big. I think it's this one right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and let's talk a little bit about glue. This is the glue that I've been using for putting these together. This works really well. You want to make sure you don't use too much glue because you don't want things to buckle, but it does a beautiful job of gluing everything together and it's not going to come apart. So I really like this Scotch tacky glue. My assistant really likes this Eileen's tacky glue and the tiny pin for like the glue tabs. But when you're doing the larger pieces, gluing these large covering panels on, you're going to probably want something with a little bit bigger flow. You don't want to use up that pin too fast because you will use quite a bit of glue. So what we're going to do is just take our front, this is the front of our house, and we're just going to take this second covering panel that's cut out of chipboard, and we're going to coat it with glue.
Lori, what kind of glue are you using, the brand, the name?
It's Scotch Tacky Glue. So Scotch Create Tacky Glue. It's a white glue. It works really well. You just want to make sure you get this close to the edges because you don't want the edges to lift up, and then go across those crossbars in the windows. So just, like I said, don't use too much. It might look like I'm putting on a lot, but I'm doing a very thin coat. And then you're just going to flip that over and place it right over that window as a great guide. As long as those crossbars are in the right position, and then right along those score lines. Then you're going to want to give that a good press. And I actually like to use my bone folder to just give that a good press. And then I actually really like, once I get all the pieces on this piece, I like to set it under a book and just some weight while it's drying so it'll dry nice and flat. And then I do like to fold these a little bit as I go because it helps me with placement on those panels. Make sure I fold that at the right place. So you can use that bone folder to get a good crease on that. And then along the bottom of the door here, make sure I don't want to fold all the way to the door. Okay, so just go ahead and get that fold, and that'll really help you place these panels on. You can see it a little bit better where to glue that. So you can either put glue right on the house or you can put it on the piece that's going to glue on, and I kind of like to put it on the piece just so I don't over glue. I don't want to get it onto any of those glue tabs or on the roof piece right now.
Lori, we have a question about your score lines. Somebody asked, did you cut the score lines along with everything else, or were they cut on lower settings?
So you can do, if you're an advanced user, certainly you could cut them on a lower setting. And I did that on some of mine when I was practicing and playing. But because we're covering it with a second panel of chipboard, it does not really show. So as you can see right here on that corner, you're not going to know what settings I use by the time I'm done with this house and spray paint it. So if you want to take the time to do that, you certainly could, but you really don't need to. And if you do that, what I did was I just turned off all the outer, I ungrouped it, turned off all the outer cut lines, left just the score lines on, ran that at a lower setting, and then turned those off and turned on the outer lines and did a double cut on chipboard settings. So If you want to do that, you can. But that is a more advanced technique, and those that are new to this, there's absolutely no reason that you need to do that. Because, like I said, if you're going to paint it, you won't even know what settings you used. So I'm just going to fold on these score lines a little bit to help me locate that panel that I'm trying to glue on. Okay, so then we're just gonna, you can always check to make sure which side of this cut looks better. If you have any tears at all, just make sure you put that to the inside. I don't have any on this piece, but every now and then you have a little bit that just has a spot that doesn't cut perfectly or something. If you get the right settings dialed in though, you get really great cuts on this chipboard. It really, really does cut well. And then just glue that on. Right there, whoops. And we'll use that bone folder to give that a good press. And then we have our last panel here on our main house piece. Again, I try to get it close to those edges. Okay, so there's our two main house pieces. At this point, I'm just going to take these and set them under a book off to the side, and we'll work on some more pieces. Okay, let's grab our front door piece and our roof and the bottom. And we'll get our covering panels for those lined up. When we move on to our second house, I'm not going to go through every single step. So if you need a refresher on covering panels, come back to this very first house so you have that information on how to glue these panels on. This piece here has a angled line right here and here, and then these are going to glue on to those two sides. So I'm going to flip this over because I've got a little tiny flaw on the, oops, let's see. Nope, I'm not. I'm going to flip them this way. There we go, just like that. A little flaw I want to have on the bottom side. And this one's going to go here. It's kind of like a puzzle, right? You just have all these puzzle pieces put together. Our two little squares here on the side, rectangles I mean. And then this one doesn't get a covering panel because this is going to glue to the house. It's kind of like an archway I left in between the pieces so that the light can get through when you put your lights on. Okay, so let's start with our roof here. And this is a point where if you wanted to use glitter cardstock instead of a second layer of chipboard, you could. Or do the second layer of chipboard and glitter cardstock. That works beautifully too. In fact, here's a sample of that. I did 2 layers of chipboard and glitter cardstock on top of that. So it is really strong. It's 3 layers. So just depending on how you want to make yours. I'm going to just go ahead and put some glue on this roof panel. And glue that down.
Lori, we had somebody ask if this class will be available to watch again.
Yes, it will. In fact, on YouTube, it'll be available immediately following the live, and it will also become available inside of the Silhouette store with each product listing. So you'll be able to watch it right with the product as where you buy it. So YouTube, though, is going to be a great resource for you to watch it. In fact, you can go right after the live and watch and replay and rewind. Okay, so that's that roof, and I'm going to go put that under something heavy. And we'll move on to our little front door area. Oh, I probably should have folded that first. Okay, I'm going to have to eyeball this one really well. So yeah, folding it actually does help you place these really better than just trying to see those score lines. So it's better to get that folded first. But I've made a lot of these at this point, so I'm pretty good at guessing. Okay, and this front door. You guys, I have a little error here on this piece. I need a pair of scissors. The front door did not slice across the bottom, and I believe I fixed that in the file. If it's not fixed, somebody let me know and I will get that replaced later this afternoon. But I thought I fixed that. But that bottom should cut across there and the door should open. Maybe I cut mine before I fixed it. That's okay. We got it fixed with a pair of scissors. So if you have something like that happen to you, grab a craft knife or something like that and just fix it. Don't feel like you have to recut that. Okay, we're just gonna fold on all those score lines. So these little front doors are really cute when you add them, but you'll want to make sure that you add any pattern paper before you glue the little out pieces on. So this is just to remind you, this little piece here, you don't want to glue it onto the house until you put your pattern paper on if you're choosing to use pattern paper. So you would want to glue pattern paper on during this chipboard set this time right now if you're using pattern paper. I'm not using any pattern paper, so I'm not going to show that, but if you want to modify the project and do that part now. You'd put on your second layer of chipboard and your pattern paper.
Lori, we have a question. Somebody asked, is there anything else I can use besides the bone scraper?
Sure, you can use like an old credit card or gift card or something like that, or even a kitchen table knife. Just the flat, not the serrated edge. I would use the nice smooth edge. But yeah, just anything with a flat edge that you can find that you have around the house. I mean, I've been, you know, you can use anything, edge of a paintbrush, you know, whatever you have. I find it easier to have something flat. Okay, so we're gonna put this under something heavy for a minute and we'll do the next couple pieces. Okay, we got the bottom piece here. Kind of close to those edges. And circle. Sometimes I'll take my other piece and just kind of spread it around if I feel like I need it to be distributed better. You'll get in a groove once you start making these and find little ways you like to modify and work. So whatever you do is perfect. You can't really mess them up.
Hey Lori, somebody asked if you've ever tried the Burley brand white glue with chipboard.
I have not. I haven't heard of that one. But if it works well with cardstock and paper crafting, then any kind of glue that you find that works for you will be great. There's another one I really like called Zip Dry glue. It's more like a rubber cement. It's a little more expensive and it's got a really strong odor to it. But I like it. It works beautiful putting down sheets of cardstock. It's a Beacon product called Zip Dry. And like I said, it works really, really well. Because of the expense and how much I paper craft, I don't buy it, and then it really is a strong smell, so it gets a little bit high when you're using it.
Okay. We have two questions that kind of go together. So the first one is, if you're using a pattern paper, do you cut each piece twice in chipboard and one cut in pattern paper?
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
And then somebody else along with that says, if you're using the paper on top, would you cut the tabs off before gluing it to the chipboard?
So there's not going to be tabs on the covering panels. Just like this little roof piece, those chipboard second panels don't have the tabs. The tabs are only on the base piece. So you would cut the covering panels only out of that extra pattern paper. Does that make sense? Okay, I don't know why I have a spare piece. I must have forgot to glue something on. I'm gonna go grab my flat pieces that I've got under a book over here off to the side. Let's bring it up here. So I just have been putting them under these pieces of, I don't know what they are, shelving material or something. And I just threw them in between different layers. I didn't want them to stick to each other. So I think I've got all my pieces. The reason I do something heavy on them is because when you're laminating two pieces of chipboard together, you just don't want them to warp at all. And that weight really helps them come out nice and flat. Yep, here's my missing piece. Let's hurry and glue that on real quick. Sorry about that. I got to talking and missed one. No big deal. We'll just throw that on. Okay, so like I said, those covering panels don't have the glue tabs. See how that rectangle? That's what you would cut out of the cardstock, and it's listed in the file. Cut this out of chipboard or cardstock, and then the base is only listed in chipboard. Okay, so to put this together, we're going to put the bottom on last, so we'll set it off to the side. We're going to put the roof on last. We're going to put the main house piece together. Let's see here. Let's see. I might have done this on the... Did I? I don't know what I did. Somehow I've got... Oh, this one cuts out. There we go. Ah, this is going to be our front door. Like, why is my front door going the wrong way? So this one cuts all the way out. And that's because it's a light. You can see inside of there. It's kind of a way for the light to get through to that front door. Hopefully you can see that. And it also really helps you line this up. You're going to line up that with this when you glue it on. Okay, so let's put a little adhesive on this side glue tab here. And we're going to put our base house together. So you're just going to line those up side by side. You want the little round window and then the little round window, and you attach them in between here. And you want to make sure that line across the bottom is nice and straight so your house sits nice and straight. And then that fold is going to meet at the bottom of that peak. And then if you fold it now while it's drying, you can kind of give it a little press, get that to glue. And you know what? I kind of broke the seal on that when I did that. So I'm going to do it again. Let's try one more time. I need to let that dry a little bit better. I'm just going to use this little piece here to spread that. And we can get a little better seal on that. So it is critical that you let your glue dry really well. And if we want to set that to the side for a minute, maybe we'll do that. I'll just let it dry, and we'll just move on to this little piece. And to close it up, we just glue on this side glue tab. And I like to use my table to press things down. So just lay it nice and flat, put some glue on that tab. And we'll just let that dry for a minute. Swap pieces. Okay. I didn't actually put the chimney together, but on the chimney, you guys, you already know what you're doing at this point. You just fold this up, and you've got your little covering panels. You just go ahead and glue those on. And I've got one already done in our next house. I'll show it to you all done up. But go ahead and double layer your chimney as well. Okay, this side panel, and then we want to, let's fold it this way, and we'll get this glue tab glued right here, and this will close up our house. And we've already folded our roof, which is good. I do want to fold this glue tab here at the top of the roof. And make sure that's folded. Yep, okay, so everything's folded the way we want before we glue it shut. And then we'll go ahead and close it up. There's the side panel. I'm just going to use a little piece of chipboard to kind of spread that. I think these glue tabs work better if you can kind of spread your glue out a little bit. It's a nice, that way it doesn't just squish out randomly. You can kind of control it a little bit. Get a good seal on that. Okay, so I just like to kind of fold it that way and press it too. And if it all folds nice and flat, you know you've done everything nice and square, so that's good. Looks like this panel needs to fold in. Make sure all those bottom panels are folded in, those glue tabs. And these glue tabs are what are going to glue onto the base piece here. Okay, so when we're done, we're going to glue the bottom on just like that. And you can kind of tell where that goes because of the curves. But until we're ready, we're just going to go ahead and glue our roof together. And it looks like I got a couple more glue tabs here on the side I need to fold in. So I recommend folding all these glue tabs before you get to this point. It would be easier. And I should have done that. Because I'm on video, kind of got ahead of myself. Okay, so now that those are all folded in, you're gonna just put some adhesive on those 4 glue tabs, and then we'll do this top one last here. So, okay. Pull those in, and then you're gonna wanna just fold that to make sure it's nice and square on the sides. And just let that dry for a moment. Sometimes I even like rotate it against the table and put my finger inside to make sure that they seal really well. I'll let that dry. And then on the top here, we've got those 3 glue tabs to glue. Okay, and once again, I feel like I need to press from the inside here, so I'm just going to rotate it. You can get your bone folder or finger, whatever, and just press really good on those seams from the inside.
Lori, somebody asked, what do you do when the glue squeezes out? Does it clean up well when you wipe it off?
Well, that's the beauty of working with this chipboard and then paint. It's all going to get covered up in the end, so if it gets a little messy along the way, it'll be fine. Don't stress. The paint will cover it up. But yeah, I mean, right here, the glue's a little messy. I just wipe it away with my finger, and it dries really well. So, but if you have little imperfections along the way, it's okay, because you're going to paint it. Don't stress. No stress. It's Christmas time. Okay, so on the front of the house. Okay, this is where, if you're going to add pattern paper, you don't want to glue this on until you have your pattern paper on. So if you want to put a pattern paper on this panel, like we did on this one, you will definitely want to glue that pattern on before adding these little outbuildings, or this little outbuilding that we're about to add. So just once you get it put together, it's going to get too hard to do that. So your only option is going to be to paint it once you glue those on. And if you wanted to paint it before, you could do that too, but I spray painted mine after. So totally up to you and the way you like to do things. So one of the things I found handy as I was putting this little top together is to put the flat piece inside and then wrap those glue tabs on top, because then it makes sure as I pinch that it's nice and square. If I put my glue tabs underneath, it's too easy for them to get pinched in or out. So I like to put that piece in, put my glue in there, and then get my finger in there and just put those glue tabs in, squeeze the sides, and that trains it to be the exact perfect width so things are nice and square. And we're going to cover this top with our roof here in a minute anyway, so you won't see any of that. I might want to put a little more glue under there. I like to make sure everything's glued. But yeah, you talked about squeezing glue out the edges, just wipe it off. And maybe have a tissue or something handy to wipe your fingers on. Or some blue jeans. Okay. Put this glue under here. And it gets a little harder to get your finger in the top, but maybe just grab it there. The top, you can reach inside, use the table, whatever you need to do to get that glued down really well. And then the bottom, we're just going to fold in those 2 side tabs and then just close it up at the bottom like this. And most of the little outbuildings on my buildings work kind of like this. So it's a little tricky. You can get in the front door, but you can't get in the top very well now. So just reach in there, or from the back, whatever you need to do to get that glue tab glued down really well. There we go. There's our front door. So you're going to glue the front door in place before you worry about the roof. Okay, so, well, let's see. Where's our other roof piece? So we've got this roof that's going to go on the house, and we've got the front door, and the front door's got to line up with that hole. So I think let's just put the front door on, and you can see the notch here in the roof is made to cut around. You could put the roof on, but then you have to eyeball it, right? So it's going to be easier to put that front door on in the perfect position with that opening. So let's do that first. A lot of different ways you can work, but let's work smarter, right? Not harder. So I actually didn't need to get glue all the way to the peak up there, but that's okay, it'll just dry. Because if you'll notice, it's not touching anything up that high. Okay, and I'm just gonna lay this down on the table. This is a little tricky to see, but I'm just reaching inside and just giving that, making sure that we're lined up. Making sure that little door opening is lined up in there. And just pressing down, make sure our glue gets a good seal. And we're going to put this roof on first. You don't want to put this roof on because then you wouldn't be able to get this one on. So make sure you do this in the right order. And you see how that roof fits on there perfectly, and then it centers it perfectly front to back for you. So, and let's just coat the roof with glue, both sides. We got any questions, McKenna? Nothing new? Okay. It really is a pretty easy project. I really hope you guys have fun making these. I tried to make them sturdy, yet simple enough that they aren't overwhelming. But, you know, if you go buy the little craft house pieces at the craft store, they are pretty expensive. So look what we've made out of like 4 pieces of chipboard. This is amazing. You get a really sturdy, fun project on your cutting machine and a few sheets of chipboard. Okay, so then we have our last little roof, and it's just going to glue on right here. So, whoops, my front just came off. Look at that. We got to glue it on again. Okay, sorry guys, I haven't had this much trouble with that glue sticking. I'm probably trying to work a little fast, and that may be the problem. So what I might do is just let this dry, and we'll move on to the next house and come back and put this little piece on. Because if I force it and it's just not got time to dry, we're not going to get the result we want. So we're going to take this little house at this point and just set it to the side. The next piece would be to glue that top on, but I'm going to let that dry before I try and do that. So, in fact, I might hand this to an assistant off camera that can hold it really well while it's drying. Maybe, Doug, do you want to hold this one? That would be cool. Okay, so we'll finish that one up in a minute, but let's move on to our second house. And this one will be a lot faster because I don't have to glue all the layers of chipboard on. That's already done for us. So we've got our main house piece. And this one we are making is the little church or school. So you could embellish this any way you want. If you want to make it look like a school or a church, you could add more embellishments to it. I kept it kind of simple so that it just is generic enough. You can use your imagination. But you could use different paper or add a little cross or something to make it a little more churchy, or a little school bell or something like that. But if you'll notice, we're going to put together a main house that's kind of like the one we just did. And instead of the front door being here, we have a little side building that's just longer. And then we have the little tower on top. So it's very, very similar to the one we just put together. And okay, so the one I just sent off camera, once we get that little roof on, we're gonna go spray paint it. And this is what it looks like after it's spray painted. So just take it outside, cover it with spray paint, and I would suggest just letting it dry for a day. And it really does great. It doesn't warp, it doesn't have any problems. And again, for those of you who weren't here at the beginning, this is the spray paint I chose to use. Worked amazing. I bought a second kind. It was really runny. So I recommend this Rust-Oleum. It's great spray paint. And once you get it to this point, that's when you get to start having fun and embellishing it. So Let's walk through the church house assembly so you know how to do that, and you can always rewind and watch later if you need some help. But we've already put on that second layer, so if you guys look closely, I've already put on the covering panels in that second layer of chipboard. So you would need to do that first to all the pieces and then start assembling. So we're going to put some adhesive on this side glue tab here and just stick that side to side, lining it up across the bottom so your house stands nice and straight. I'm going to let that dry for a minute. We'll move on to our next piece. Again, there is no covering panel for that little archway that goes between the house and the little outbuilding. There's no need for an extra layer in there. It just would make it a little too thick and awkward. So I did not throw in a layer for that. Okay, all of our score lines are just fold toward the center. We're going to form this little house, and again I'm going to use that trick where I put the flat side inside of the glue tabs. So glue that side tab. Okay, we got a little, make sure that's folding all the way where it should. Okay. Always use your bone folder to get a good seal on those glue lines. I'm going to set that off to the side. There's our little steeple on the house. So right here, this little piece right here. So we just put together the base house piece here. That's this one. And we just put together this little outbuilding piece over here. And now we're doing the steeple up here. I know it looks a little like a lot, but it really isn't too hard. With a good picture and these instructions, you shouldn't have any trouble putting yours together at home. Okay, so let's go back to our first piece while those are drying. Make sure that glue has a chance. Oh, the front door is folded backwards. That's a problem. Push that forward. There we go. So then we can glue this side tab over here. And I'm just going to spread that glue a little bit. I like to make sure that you get glue on the whole tab all the way to the corners, because you don't want it to come loose. You don't want to have any gaps. The better job you do with that, the less gaps and things you see. So we'll let that dry for a minute. I'll go work on this roof. And put those roof panels in and put glue on these tabs on the back side. Okay, fold all those in. I'm going to have to reach inside to get those where I want them. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. I'll go do the steeple piece.
Lori, I think you might have answered this at the start, but somebody asked, would it be possible to store these flat, or even send them in the mail flat as a gift?
Well, if you wanted to send them like this, you could, but you can't have the roof on. So unless whoever you're sending it to is good at assembling, I would say this is not the best village for that. I do have a different village that does fold and store flat, but this is a completely different village. So I would recommend going to cuttingclasses.com and taking the Store Flat Christmas Village class if you want one that I've designed that's made for storing flat and mailing. So this one, not so much. This one is designed to be heavy duty, have it year round type village. But if you wanted to send somebody all the pieces and they want to put it together, maybe a crafting friend or something, I'm sure. Okay. Doing these two those should meet in the middle, which will tell you exactly when it's nice and square. So just make sure those meet in the middle. And of course, those are going to come loose on this side. If you're working at home, you can take a little more time than I'm taking here on camera. So if you might need to stop between each piece and just let it dry a little bit better, have a little more patience than I'm having, and just hold things a little bit longer. Usually if you can kind of get it stuck down, you can just let it dry off to the side and give it a minute. Okay, we'll go back to the main house and fold all those glue tabs down that are going to glue to the bottom. This one needs a press still. So there's the bottom, and there's our roof tabs. That's what we're going to do next. So fold all those in. And so we'll do this side first because it has the long glue tab. We'll glue that on and fold it over, and then we'll glue this on. So we want to do these two tabs first on this side.
Okay, Lori, we have two classes. So somebody asked, what was the website you said that they can find the other
store flat,
Yeah.
Christmas Village? That one's at cuttingclasses.com.
Okay.
And that is
Awesome.
that's my little teaching website where I teach people how to use their Silhouette machine.
Perfect. And then somebody asked, when will the other seasonal embellishments be available?
I knew someone was going to ask that. So I'm working on them, but right now I've got to get through this class and then I've got to get through next week's class. And then I will start working on them. Tell me which themes you would like. Like, do you want a New Year's one, or would you want me just to move straight to like Valentine's or winter? I mean, you could keep most of this up for winter. The little wreaths on the door, I don't know, they're a little Christmassy, I guess. We could do some snowflakes or something. Yeah, I will have them ready probably, if not before Christmas, just right after Christmas for the next season. But let me know, how many do you want? Do you want them for every holiday, or do you just want them for the main seasons? Okay, now that we have that whole roof put together, let me push on this just a little bit more. There, I'll make sure that feels good. We're going to put our side building on, which is this one here with the little oval. We'll just line those up and glue that together. So I'll put glue. And remember, I don't need it up in the triangle area because that's not going to have any contact with anything up here. So just to this line here. I kind of goofed and oops, I don't need any on that glue tab either. I forgot to fold that one. Right there. Okay, so I'll just put it down below that little archway and up to that line. Line that up inside. I know it's tricky to see when I'm inside there, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you're doing it. There's that archway. If you'll line those up perfectly, then it puts this little outbuilding in perfect position. Get your fingers in there and get that a good press. Okay. And we can just go ahead and glue the bottoms shut. Did anybody give us any theme ideas of what they want to see for embellishments?
Yeah, we got a lot. We got some for the seasons, but some for the holidays, but a lot of people seem to have said like one per month. So.
One per month. Okay, so everybody, I might be able to handle that. My goal is to do one per season for sure, and then major holidays. So just, maybe, my husband had this idea, maybe at some point in time I will try and add some 3D type embellishments to the village. Okay, so this is our little roof for our steeple. So that's going to glue on there. And this is our roof for our house. That's going to glue on there. And then this is our roof for our little outbuilding. And that's going to glue here. So think about the order here. We want to put this main house piece on first, and then the outbuilding, and then the steeple. So let's go ahead and do this main roof piece. And then you just want to make sure that that slit is over there on the little outbuilding side, so that will kind of guide this into the right position. You want to let that dry really well. And then we'll add on our little roof piece to the outbuilding. Just fold those two glue tabs in. Give that a good press. Make sure that they're folded right where they go, and then that's going to glue on there. So you just need to add glue to those two tabs, and then just that roof is going to kind of tell us the angle to glue it at. So just use that as your guide. And again, if you wanted to put pattern paper or glitter cardstock on the roof, you needed to do it before adding this, because now you can't get that piece underneath there anymore because we glued this on top of it. And we'll add our steeple. I'm just going to put glue on these two tabs here. And just put it where you would like on the house. I just put mine back about, an inch or so. Kind of like that. And then we're just going to put our little roof on top with some adhesive on these two sides. And I can go back to that house number 1 that's off to the side there, McKenna, and put the little roof on that outbuilding. Or Doug, you want to hand that to me, hon? We got some fabulous people behind the scenes here, keeping the cameras going, and the little house, getting it held together to glue. So we're done with that little church. Hey, Doug, would you take this one for a moment and hold that roof on really well for me? We'll glue the base on when we get it back. So the house base is over here, the church base is over there. I've got this little house here. Now, this is the base for that, and I've got a roof somewhere over here. There it is. So we'll take this roof for the little front door outbuilding, and just place that on there. And glue that in place. Oh, I need to put some glue on the rooftop too. Sorry about that. So if you get everything glued really well and dried, this is not coming apart. You're gonna just have a very sturdy project. So there's our little cottage with the roof on. And while that's drying, I'm gonna try and keep pressure on that. And we'll go ahead and add some glue to the bottom. This is how you glue the bottom in place on all the houses. You got glue tabs, and then there's always like a bottom to the little outbuilding. And then you're just gonna line up. And you see how it's off-centered? This is gonna be the front because I need more space for that little outbuilding. So just glue that right on there. You can see the little curves on those glue tabs. That's your hole for your lights. So just give everything some pressure. At this point, you would just hold this till it dries really well. So, and I can probably hand this off camera too for a moment. Okay, so that's just gonna dry. Maybe put a little pressure on that if we can. How are we doing on time? We're doing all right? Okay, I've got one more house to put together. Okay, like I mentioned, you're gonna take, those two are completely done, and you're going to take them outside and you're going to spray paint them, and they're going to come back in looking like this. Beautiful, so pretty. And then you get to start painting the roofs and embellishing. And I'm going to start painting one of the roofs after we assemble this last one, so stick around and see exactly how I do that. But first, let's go ahead and put the manor together. The manor looks like this one. It's probably one of my favorite pieces. And I love it so much because it has so many windows in it, and I just think it looks so cute lit up. So you've got your base house, kind of like we've had before, a roof, and a little outbuilding. So it's really assembled the same way, but just I wanted to make sure we film all the houses because I want you to feel comfortable putting this village together. If you have any questions about any specific pieces, you can reference this video. So this large opening here is where our outbuilding is gonna, our front door building is gonna hook on right here. So that's gonna line up to glue that on. And then we have our roof, and all of these already have their double cardstock. I've already put 2 layers together. I prepped all of it ahead of class time, so you didn't have to watch me glue those on. And here's a chimney. I told you I'd have a chimney double layered already too. So you can glue these chimneys, and I didn't use them on my houses, but you can glue these on. They look like this once they're glued together. You just use those 2 side glue tabs there and just glue them onto the house wherever you want to use them. So those are completely optional if you want to use them or not, but they're in the file. You've got them.
Lori, are the windows just blank, or did you cover them with a material like vellum or something?
So my windows are all blank, and I did not include covering panels for those from the inside. But if you want to go to town and add vellum, you certainly can. And I've done that on some of my other examples for different villages. This one has vellum over the doors and windows, and it's really pretty, and that's just a sheet of vellum on the inside that you can add. That's completely optional and completely up to you. It'd be pretty easy to cut squares and cover the windows and glue them around. You would just do that on the inside right now. You'd want to cover them from the inside right here. Don't cover this opening here because you want the light to come through there, but just the outside windows, you could put vellum behind those panels. Does that make sense? But I did not plan on those being covered. I just wanted these to last a long time, and sometimes vellum over time yellows or comes loose. It doesn't stay glued really well. So that's why I didn't want it on my personal village, but people create these for all sorts of reasons. You know, you might just want to make one as a centerpiece and just use it a couple years and you're good. So whatever you want to do. Okay, we're just gluing these glue tabs. I did that main piece, and now I'm doing the little front door piece, and I'm just gluing those side glue tabs. Just spread that a little bit better. And just glue that down. And I'm alternating just so that glue can dry in between. And we've already got our roof. So this one is quite simple. At this point, we just need to glue. Hopefully that's dried enough. I let it lay flat and just try and work from here. Sometimes when I work a little fast, that glue doesn't quite have time to cure all the way. With that to get a seal on that glue. Okay, so then we'll just fold in those bottom panels and those top pieces, and we're gonna glue this roof together just like the rest. So simple. See how much easier it gets on like the third house? Once you do a few of these, you'll be a pro. You'll get better and better at it. And they're all constructed very similarly, so once you get the methods down, you'll be fine. I'm going to reach inside and put some pressure on those side glue tabs. Oh, I just messed that one up. It'll get in the right place. So you can see, you'll run into little things that happen along the way, but you can always fix it. If something comes loose, just add a little more glue. But I will tell you, tape runner is not the same. Do not use tape runner on these. It will come loose and you will have a village that spontaneously combusts. So don't try tape runner. I really would discourage you from using tape runners. So if anybody's like, what's a tape runner? Oh, I thought I had one in here. I was going to show you how it's Oh, it's okay. It's hiding back here somewhere, but you guys know what tape runner is. I just wouldn't use any sort of double-sided tape. It just does not stay glued. I used some on one of these houses and I had pieces falling off and roofs coming loose, so learn from my mistake. Okay, this one, again, I'm going to use that inside piece as kind of a little guide as to where these glue flaps go. Pushing it just tight. This is the little front door piece. So push that down, put a little glue in there. And a little glue in here, and then I can just hold it all at once. And use the table if you need to like reach in there with your phone folder and just push on those. And then I'm just going to set that off to the side for a minute and give it a minute to dry. And so while we're letting that dry, I'm just going to go ahead and glue the bottom. Well, no, I'm not. Do I? Yeah, I will. I'll glue the bottom on. So on this one, I want the larger space in the front because remember, this is going to be sitting out here. So I want that space up here and not in the back of the building. So we'll just put some glue on that. There. Okay, and then line up that. Okay, just remember what I said, put the extra space up front. You guys, sometimes I say things like that and then I forget what I'm doing. I follow my own advice. So line that up, and then sometimes you just need to double check it from the outside to make sure things are nice and square. And then you can peek through to the inside, make sure your circle is still lined up. Put a little pressure in there. You have to reach in there with your finger. And just let it sit there and dry. Hopefully this is dry enough at this point. We'll go ahead and put some glue just from those two angles there down. Don't need to put it up in the triangle area because that won't be touching anything. And we need to glue the bottom shut too while we're here. So we'll pull those tabs in and push those in. And, okay, you guys, this is a little tricky because I already put the bottom on. I'm going to put some glue on this too. So I'm just going to shove that on there, and we're just going to hope for the best. And lining it up, I'm just opening that front door to look in there. Okay, so at this point, I've got to hold down to get it to stick down and push against the building. And just reach in that door and just give it a good press from the inside of the house. If you can get a good press on the glue, that really, really helps. Then you won't have a lot of gaps. You don't want like extra space here. So hanging on to that while it's drying really does help. And at home, you can just use your time a little bit more than me. I'm pressing down on that front door, inside the door there. So now these little doors, I didn't cut those out of chipboard for a second layer yet because I'm going to show you a little trick that I did. Where is my roof for this piece here? I'm not sure where that is. But you're going to go ahead and glue on this roof piece. Actually, I'm going to put the glue on the house instead of on the roof. Okay, let's slide our roof on. And if you wanted to use glitter cardstock, now's your chance, because once you put this piece on, you won't be able to slide it under there. I'm going to send this off screen real quick to be held together, and we'll get back to the church house. You kind of hold that front door on really well and the roof. Okay, so here's our church house nice and glued together, and we can go ahead and put the bottom on that. And just take a look here. You're going to want to rotate this sideways here so that you have the hole over here and you've got the extra space for that outbuilding. So just put the glue on your bottom of your house. Maybe I did something. And we'll just hold that down good until it dries. So I'm just going to set that off screen while it's drying. So, okay, now's your time. You're going to take your house pieces outside and you're going to spray paint them all, and they're going to come back in looking just like this. So pretty. There they are. So now to get them from this point to this point, we need to add window casings and doors and paint roof. So my casings and my doors, I wanted them to match my roof perfectly. So in order to do that, what I did was took a piece of chipboard and painted it with the same color that I paint the roof with, and I let it dry really good. So you might want to do that first and let it dry, and because you want it good and dry before you put it on your cutting mat. And then you will go cut the window casings and the front doors out of this. Or you could do the shutters. Remember I showed you the one example that has shutters? You've got two options at this point. You can either add shutters that look like this. You'll want the curve towards the inside like they're open, or you can add the window casings that look like this. So it's your choice. And then their doors. So if you're doing them out of a colored or cardstock, you could cut them out of that color. But I wanted them out of chipboard and I wanted them to match my roof. So that's why I painted this chipboard that I have on the table here. I painted it so that it would match exactly. So I used, I know someone's going to ask, I mentioned it at the beginning of class, but it's called charcoal. That's my color that I used. So I just used a brush like this and used the paint right on the chipboard. Let it dry really well, then load it on your mat and you'll be ready to cut. For the roofs, I literally just took my charcoal paint and put my brush down, and I just put it right on my roof. Be really careful. That's where I gotta be careful because I like to do things fast. But you're just gonna start painting your roof. And you could paint the walls if you want to paint your whole house with paint, you can do that too. But I just did the roofs. Some of them are a little trickier than others. This one's a really simple one because all the roofs don't have any white walls that the roof line bumps into. So this one's going to be pretty simple. Be really careful on these edges not to like over paint on the house, because why do I know that? Because guess what? I did it once. Then I had to go touch up the white. And you can even kind of use your brush and dab the front edges so that little front edge isn't white. It's actually paint color or the roof color. So we'll just finish this up. Let me balance that on something. You can get like a piece of plastic if you want to be fancy or something and just put your paint on that to dab into, but I just paint, I just pour it right on the roof. You don't have to mess around much. But if you're doing like I'll show you which one has a tricky area, and we're actually not making that house until next week. But there's a tricky area on the general store where those two little roof peaks actually run into the white wall. So my husband got the painter's tape and taped it off for me. That worked pretty well. Or you can just get a little fine brush. Like, I'm just going to set my brush down on my plastic there off camera. So there's the roof all painted. Oops, oh, I didn't do this side. We got to finish. Let's finish this roof here. Okay, so there's the roof all painted. We'll put down our brush. You could give it a second coat if you want, but that's the roof all done. What was I going to mention? I was going to tell you the one that has some issues. This one here. If you spray paint everything white on this one, you can see how the roof line bumps into the white. You've got to have a steady hand with a fine brush, kind of like this, and you can just paint right along that edge, or tape it off if you feel like you need some help. But I found it easiest just to be steady with the brush and do that. Or if you really wanted, you could paint those roof pieces before you glue them on. But I wanted to spray paint the whole thing. I think the spray paint actually adds a little extra strength to the whole house. So I liked spray painting the whole thing. So that is Okay, I didn't cover the window casings yet and the doors. So I told you that earlier I painted my chipboard and then I cut my window casings. This is what they look like when they're all cut. Earlier we did a test cut of a window casing, but I painted them, cut them out, and at this point you would just glue them all on. And I like to use a fine tip glue bottle for that. Got that over here. So a fine tip glue bottle, something like this, so you can see that. But to put these on, you would just, you just go to the back and just put a little glue on all of that, coat it really nicely, and hopefully you can see that, and then just flip that over and glue those on. So you would want to just go ahead and do that to your whole house and get all those on and get your roofs painted. And then I want to meet with you guys next week. You kind of have some homework to do in between now and next week, and I want you to come to me with any questions you might have on how to finish these up or finish putting them together. So here's our finished house that looks just like this one. So I put it down back here. So next week when you come to me, hopefully you get all of your 3 houses that we did this week. You've got the cottage, this church, school, and the manor. Cut them all out, get them all put together, paint them all white, paint the roofs, and get the window casings put on like this one here. And then, so did I not lay that down? It's still drying. And then we'll meet together. You can bring any questions you might have to me as you're working this week. You can come back and watch this video for more help. But hopefully that gives you all the information you need to get your houses this far. Yeah, feel free to email me with questions. My email is info@loriwhitlock.com. If you guys have questions you'd like me to answer live right now, feel free to do so. But other than that, just get your, next week you're going to want to be prepared to do the print and cut pieces, and you'll want to be prepared to cut out the large, you could even cut it this week if you wanted to just assemble it right along with me. The large general store and the farmhouse, those 2 will be next week, and then the print and cut pieces. And I mentioned earlier in class, if you want to get the glitter cardstock, you could do that. I didn't use glitter, I used plain cardstock for mine, but that's a pretty cool option too that Silhouette offers.
Awesome.
So,
one thing that I wanted to mention, Lori, is that I'm putting the link to next week's class in the chat. We will post it on our social media, and we'll send out a newsletter. And I don't know if you're going to send out another newsletter too, but we put it in there. So if you want to register early, you can go ahead and check that out.
Okay. All right. Go check the link in the class in this video, and go register for next week. Sorry, that house was sort of turned around. I thought I went through the front of it. Okay, any other questions?
I don't think so, not pertaining to these houses. So.
Okay, all right, you guys. I will see you next Tuesday at 11 a.m. I'll be back here at the Silhouette headquarters. We'll finish up our village and we'll be all ready to go for the holidays. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.